Hello everyone, it's Kari from sunshineonmypocket.com, and today I'm going to create a really fun shaker card using this brand new stamp set from Missing Stamps. This is freshly booed and it is so cute with all these little images, that little ghost holding a coffee cup or a to-go cup. I'm also going to bring in the web stencil and the ghosts and bats mini dies. And this mini die set comes with those 3 ghosts and 5 bats and a little moon. I'm also going to bring in this die from the Postage Seal and Shaker collection. And what this die does is it cuts out acetate for you to be able to create a full panel shaker card, which is really, really awesome. So let's get started on our card. I'm going to tape down my panel, and this is an A2 size panel. And I'm going to use my magnets to hold down this spiderweb stencil. Now you can use some spray adhesive if you want to. Today I'm not going to use that because I find that when I use that spray adhesive, it sometimes gets my panel sticky, and when I'm doing a full shaker, I don't want my panel to be sticky to hold on to those little bits that shake around. So I'm just going to kind of hold it with my hands and those magnets and hope that it stays in place, and it worked really well for me. I'm using some oxide inks today in a few shades of purple and some black soot as well. This web stencil is so great because you can use it in a variety of ways. There's lots of different areas that you can focus on. I used this before on a card I made with the brand new Some Pig stamp set, so you can go back and check that out if you're interested. But today I'm using it for more of a spooky little card, kind of a Halloween nod. So now I'm going around the edges with that black soot, just kind of darkening that up and holding in place that stencil. I just want to get that all around the edges. And so I'm going to go back and forth with some of these inks just to blend them through a little bit more, get a little bit darker of a purple around the edges. And that worked really well. So I do like to go back and forth with my inks. And once I have that finished, I'll remove the stencil, and look at that. It's a really fun look. So pretty. So now I'm going to cut this out, and also I'm going to cut out all these little dies using some cardstock, and then that larger die I'm going to use on some acetate. Now if you have a hard time cutting out your acetate with this die, just use an extra piece of cardstock over the top or underneath, and it should really help to get that cut out. Now I don't have a problem with mine. I don't even use a metal shim when I cut out my acetate, but I do hear that some people have some challenges with acetate and their die cut machine. So just add a little extra cardstock and see if that works for you. I've already stamped out this little ghost image and the sentiment from the freshly booed stamp set, and I'm just going to color it up real quick for you. I'm using some neutral grays today on the witch's hat, but I do have some other ideas in coloring up this hat in different colors. So I'll share that with you a little bit later, but today we're going to just use neutral grays. And I'm going back and forth in my regular fashion. I usually start with the darkest shade, blend that out with the mid-tone, and then go in with the lighter shades and just blend that out. And I'll usually go back in and add some of the darker tones once again. I'm going in with some blue shades for the ghost and adding in some shadows. He's going to be mostly a white ghost, but you can see I'm being a little bit extra with the blue just so you can see it on the video. I find that my lights wash out my coloring just a little bit, so I'm actually going in a little heavy-handed with this coloring today, but I think he's cute. Either way, he's cute. I colored up the ribbon on the hat with some pinks and oranges, and now I'm going to fussy cut him out using my scissors. I'm also going to use my guillotine trimmer to cut out the sentiment. I'm just going around the edges and creating a nice box around it. And I'm also going to use a anti-static dryer sheet on my acetate before I fold in those pieces. Now I find it's easiest to fold these pieces down and then use my bone folder to really reinforce those score lines. That helps me to get them perfectly folded. And you can see I just go in with that bone folder. And once I have them all ready, I like to test out my panel before I tape it all down. So I'm going to place my panel inside, make sure that it fits. I do think this time I need to trim off just a tiniest little bit. So I am going to trim off a really small amount off just one side, top and, or one side and the top or bottom. So I guess two sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and test that out again, and it fits perfectly. So there we go. We are ready to start putting this card together. I'm going to do something like this, but I felt like it really needed something, a little bit of oomph, a little more excitement. So I'm bringing back in the Coffee Rings stencil, which I love, and I'm going to add just a hint of this to the background. Before I do, I make sure that this is completely dried. I use my heat tool to just help it to dry fully, and then I'm going to test the embossing glaze powder on it just to make sure it doesn't stick. And look at that, it's not going to stick perfect because I don't want it to stick all over the back, just over where I want it. Now this embossing glaze is kind of transparent. I mean, you can see it a little, you see the color, but it's not heavy like a real bright white or gold or silver would be. It's just like a whisper of coffee rings. So I'm using some VersaMark ink, just tapping that through the stencil, and now I'll layer on that Distress Embossing Glaze. I think this is the Speckled Egg Distress Embossing Glaze, or it could be the Uncharted Mariner Distress Embossing Glaze. I have both of them on my desk, and I'm just gonna lightly put that on and shake off the excess. You can kind of see it a little bit there, and I'll heat set that. And once it's heat set, it's like a little ghosted image. So it goes really well with our theme. And I love it. I think it adds a little extra excitement to the background. You kind of can, you barely see it, but it's there. It's just like a little extra something. So I like that, and I think it goes really well with our ghost. There's our finished embossed background. Isn't that cool? And it catches in the light. So now we can go ahead and put together our panel shaker background. To do that, I'm just going to sweep away any excess powder, put it in my acetate panel that we've die cut, add a little extra reinforcement with that bone folder once again, and then add some score tape to the back of each of these tabs. Now before we seal up all the tabs, I want to leave one area open so I have a little space to put in my ghosts and bats that I die cut out. You can see them in the upper left corner there. So I'm going to add the score tape to all of them, but I'm not going to remove the backer from all the sides. I'm just going to make sure that that's on nice and tight. Then I'll remove, I want to make sure I have this the right way up. There, I think I'm going to do it that way. Now I can start removing the backer and sealing parts of these areas closed. Just like this, and I reinforce it once again with that Teflon bone folder, and I'm leaving the top open right here, and that way I can go ahead and add in those die cut pieces. So let's do that. I'm going to add a few ghosts, and I like their little eyes and mouths to be clear or clean, so I'm popping out those die cut pieces if they've stuck in. Some of them do a little bit. So I'm using my little poker tool to help me get those out, and then I'm adding those in. That way you can see back to the background. I think it looks really cool. So I did die cut out these little dies a couple of times so I had enough to put in to shake around. You really don't need a lot though to add an impact. So a few bats here, a few ghosts. This is looking really cool already. I didn't really count. I just kept putting them in until it looked right. That looks really good right there. Whoops. Now let's add a few more ghosts maybe. Just a couple of more. I love that. Looks good. Okay, once I get it just like I want it, I'm going to seal up the final edge there. Just like that. And now we can put our entire card together. Look how cool that looks. So this is going to go like this right on the front. And to do that, I'm just going to add liquid adhesive. If you use a really strong liquid adhesive and allow it to dry, then it will stay on there, even though it's acetate. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that on and use my magnets to hold it down until it dries completely. I'll put my little ghost right there. Very, very cute. Whoops. I'm trying to get my magnets on there not to stick together. And once it's dry, look at that. It's ready to put onto a card panel. To attach it to a card panel, I use the score tape to make it nice and sturdy. And sometimes I'll add a little extra liquid adhesive as well. But the score tape should do the trick. So I'm going to add this score tape all across the back. I'm out of the thicker score tape still. I need to put that on my list. So I just have this thin score tape, but that's okay. We'll just use a little bit extra. Peel those off and then line it up really good to that back panel and attach that on. And now we'll get those shaker pieces to shake around. And that looks good right about there. So that's going to finish off the card, and look how cool those little pieces are. Now those shaker pieces are really great for inside a shaker card, but they're also great for little embellishments on your cards as well. So I love them. Hope you loved this video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back soon to share more card inspiration. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.